This episode is brought to you by the Made to Measure Leggings class from SewHere.com.
Start off on the right foot or leg and draft the leggings pattern of your dreams based on your measurements.
The class not only includes instructions on measuring and drafting a pattern to fit anyone in your life, but detailed videos on constructing leggings using any equipment.
Go to sewhere.com/leggings to learn more and get the class.
Welcome to Sewing Out Loud, the official podcast of Zede Sewing Studio. Here are your hosts, Zede and Mallory.
Sewing Out Loud. Well, we weren't too certain what the podcast topic should be today.
And we are now?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So I've been working with some stretch lace and got some in the shop. And when you came into the shop and saw the stretch lace, you were talking about, oh, hey, do you know how to piece this together? And we got interrupted, and then
lace insertion.
And then I actually have to piece some lace together. And I just did it the way I thought I should do it, and it looks fine, but I don't.
You screwed it up, didn't you?
Highly impossible.
Is that rag you're wearing on your head? That piece of lace that you screwed up?
It's cute. Shut up.
Okay.
So, well, let me tell you what I did, and then you can tell me what I should have done.
And you want me to be nice?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, don't be nice, because people,
be honest.
No, people need to know how mean you are to me, because we discussed this.
No.
We discussed this the first podcast we record.
Okay. Who sounds the meanest?
Okay. People of the internet, I will tell you, depending on what they watch, they decide that you're a monster or that I'm a monster. It's like one or the other.
But,
so wait, hold on, let me just tell you, because Mom doesn't read all these comments. I do. So if they watch the jeans darning video, I'm just this bitchy little teenager, and they're like, gosh, Mallory, you're so mean to your mom, da-da-da, okay? And then if they watch the how to laminate your own fabric video, you're just an idiot and you shouldn't even talk, apparently. They're like, people have been like, Mallory, stop being so mean to your mom in the jeans darning video, because I said something like, well, Mom told me I had to learn how to darn my own jeans, and I thought I was being funny.
Right.
And then
right.
In the laminating fabric video, you say something like, okay, and then you put this on top and iron, right? And I'm like, oh, no, you do it like this. And I thought we were being very civil to each other. And people are like, Mom, just get out of the video. Let the daughter do it on her own. So if you want to imagine our relationship, just imagine the relationship you have with your mom.
I have often thought if there was ever a crime in our family and anybody read our texting back and forth, not only you and me, but between
all
your
the
sisters,
girls.
right? Because there's 3 girls all together, and then me, that we would all go to jail because people would believe that stuff.
Well, I kind of promised when we started this podcast that we wouldn't do these long wind-up intros. But anyway, okay, stretch lace. So what I did, I got in these 1-yard cuts of stretch lace, these assortments, and a yard is a pretty good, I think, amount to do some cute little headbands and maybe something across a shirt or, neckline and stuff like that. But what I ended up doing was the Diana cardigan from Amy Barackman's Magic Pattern book. And that cardigan has this continuous curved hemline, so that the neckline and the hemline are all connected. Right. So I wanted to line.
So it goes up around the collar and down the hem and everything, so and it's one piece.
Yes. Yeah. And it was 126 inches is what we sort of guesstimated out with the tape measure.
That would be more than a yard.
That's more than a yard. Exactly.
Yes.
So I had this stretch lace, and it was scalloped on both edges, and I think it's about 6 inches wide. So I cut it up the middle. So each yard gave me 2 yards of stretch lace. Yeah. And then I applied it around the neckline. And how I joined the pieces was I just lined up the scallop. Okay, so they're overlapped, and it's right side on wrong side, just complete, both right sides of the lace are up and they're just overlapped. And I just did kind of a tiny zigzag and trimmed on both sides. So there's a tiny raw edge on the outside of my lace, but I couldn't even find it. There's just a tiny overlap. So So tell me what you would have done to join the lace together if it would have been different than that.
I would have done that.
Oh, happy day. Editor Schmeditor Sam, can you put in some applause? You're like, okay.
The only other thing I could say is if you didn't like that raw edge, what you could have done is folded it back and zigzagged on top of a folded edge.
Yeah.
Then, then you would have had to,
clip. There'd be two things to clip at the same time.
Right. Or clipped one. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so all your,
There's no reason to put it right sides together and seam it and then flip it back and sew those down.
Probably
That's just
not.
Too much
You're probably going to
stitching.
add too much bulk and make it too stiff. Lace is supposed to be flowing and airy.
Oh, and you know what? It looks really good if I do
it?
say so myself. I think, I was afraid it might look a little old lady-y. It's on this flowery
Watch
knit,
Watch it.
for
Watch
somebody. I made it for you. And it doesn't, I think it looks really nice, and there'll be some pictures. And then I made myself a little lace headband real quick. I'm not quite finished with it, but I think we'll put some instructions on the website for that because I have a cool way I think I want to finish my lace headband. But dealing with the stretch lace, I think people are a little afraid of it, that when they start sewing with it, it'll get pushed down under their throat plate or something
and
like
it could.
that. It can, but I think what people also don't realize is you have ready-made holes in the stretch lace.
Right.
There's nothing in the way of the
It's not really
needle.
piercing anything.
Yeah.
That's why rarely are you going to use a straight stitch.
Yeah, okay.
Generally,
yeah,
you're
there
going
you
to
go.
use a small width zigzag.
And I used a small width and a longer length than the zigzags factory settings.
Right.
So
I would assume you're right. I would say the length of the stitch probably needs to be 2.5 to 3.
Okay. I think I did 2.5, and the factory recommended setting is more like a 1.5.
Yeah, I was going to say it's almost closer to a satiny satin stitch.
Yes, and
usually.
it's and the width was 2 maybe, and I brought it down to 1.5.
That's probably what I would have said.
We'll put exact measurements.
I would have said, as a general rule, I would start out with a 1.5 width and a 2.5 length. Now, again, the only person that that sews the lace that it is sorry, or doesn't like it is the one that didn't try it out first, right?
Right. Test it out.
Test it out, right?
Well, and
there's two kinds of people, the successful one who tested it, and then the one that wishes they tested it.
And I tested it without any water soluble stabilizer behind it, and I don't think I needed it. I think even the beginning seamstress
stabilize again. That's another thing. It's a test.
Yeah.
Do you need stabilizer or don't you? And it's going to depend. It's going to depend on your lace, how it's made, how it's woven. It may depend on your machine and the quality of your feed dog.
Well, I also think that change your needle. Just if you're about to sew on this delicate stuff,
and what I would
start
like
with a new
is
needle.
the really sharp needles,
like a Microtex,
or a sharp 70 denim, anything that I know is really, really sharp. Microtex sounds really good, yeah.
Or even
and the small size needle,
yes. Small Microtex.
And then as far as thread,
do you want me to tell you what I used, and then you can tell me if I'm wrong or not?
Okay, you probably can't be wrong.
Well, that's probably true, but I used.
Well, you could be wrong.
Yeah,
if it was 50 cents a spool.
Yeah, exactly.
At our big department.
It was high quality thread,
right?
And I used it's like a nude lace, so I used a nude embroidery thread in the top.
And so it was polyester.
Yeah,
it was shiny.
And my lace had shiny.
And your
stuff in
lace
it.
had some shiny.
And you couldn't see it.
So that is exactly what I was going to say. You probably want to match, color and sheen. So if you have a very flat lace and you put in a shiny, shiny poly or a shiny, shiny rayon, you're going to be sorry because you're going to see it.
I think people don't realize how much you could get to really almost butcher lace. Not even stretch lace, but
any lace.
When people are putting it on wedding dresses or something, it's they put it up on the dress and they cut around the motifs and then stitch them on. Right. You really do get to do that. When I applied the lace around the neckline, I did pin it.
And this is an add-on lace, so it's hanging off the edge.
That's right.
Okay.
So I didn't finish off my cardigan. Just pretend like I had no hem, no nothing on my cardigan. Right. And I just laid the wrong side of the cardigan down to the right side of the lace. The lace is hanging off the edge, just as though I was going to be wearing it. Okay. And I did a tiny zigzag right on top of those 2 layers. And then I trimmed away the lace because I'd say there's like maybe an inch of scallop hanging out. And then there was still 2 inches left behind, like under the jacket. And so I trimmed it closer in there.
So why didn't you serge it?
Well, I didn't serge it. And because I know there's a lace applicator foot and I hadn't used it before. And tell me how you would have serged it. Because I thought about that after I started on the sewing machine. I was like, oh, I should have just serged this.
I don't know that I would have even used the lace applicator foot. I would have put the knit side down and the lace up. And
would it have flipped out on me, though? You know what I'm talking about?
So which way does the seam flip on the serger?
The right side of the top.
The top
side of the serger stitch. The upper looper side.
The upper looper will flip back.
Right, will flip back.
Right.
And you think it would have laid nicely? I was worried it would lay nice. But
you could have tested it.
I didn't get to test.
You could have tested it. But what you said, I mean, not everybody has a serger. It's just that I'm a go-to serger kind of gal.
Well, I want to talk about do you have anything else to add about the serger?
Well, no. But, you didn't have to have the serger and the sewing machine was right. And tell me again, when you said you applied right side to right side and stitched it together.
It was right side of the lace is like laying on your cutting table. Okay. A face up, right? So you see the right side. And then I just laid the jacket over it just like I wanted it and pinned it and then just stitched it right on.
Okay.
And so I want to talk about this. This is a feature of a sewing machine. This doesn't really, I don't know what the title of this podcast will be, but the left-right shift feature or the needle position feature on a sewing machine. And we know from personal experience that Bernina has this needle position feature they talk about. So every stitch is movable. Just about every stitch is movable within the stitch area. And Baby Lock has it on some of their machines, like midline to higher end. And I love this feature that you can move the stitch within the stitch area. And what I could do with that was my zigzag, and once again, narrow, longer zigzag. I moved it all the way to the right, okay? So it was all the way to the right side of the foot.
Right.
So I could line up the edge of my jacket, the edge of my cardigan fabric, with that little groove that's right on the edge of the stitch area.
You picked a landmark.
Yeah, I picked a landmark, and I pinned the lace, and you know what I did? I picked a landmark on the lace. There was like this swirl in the pattern, and so that's where I, chose to line it up at, each and every time. But what that did was, when we talk about like lace getting sucked up into your feed dogs, since my stitch got to move all the way over to the right, my needle was supported every time on that, right bite of the zigzag. It was supported on all 3 sides of the needle.
Right.
So I really like that feature. People don't realize why that's important. Because on every machine, just about, you can move the straight stitch within the stitch area.
Right.
But not like the zigzag or...
And another stitch that you might use to apply lace with is going to be an applique stitch. Where it looks, it looks straight and then one stitch over.
There's
and
a
back.
bite.
Right. It's a bite. It's just taking the bite out. And again, that usually you can move within the feed dog area.
Yeah,
like
within
that.
the stitch.
Yep.
And then if you can't move your stitch, it's okay, but I really did like that. I think another foot you could use when you're applying something like this is that edge joining foot, which
absolutely
whole other podcast.
Oh, no,
Next podcast,
absolutely. Mom. I mean, there used to be a few, a lot of feet come with machines now. It wasn't always that way, you got a few functional feet, but you never got, what I would call the trick feet or the fun feet. And there was a point in time where I was like the Gestapo of feet, and you always left the shop when you bought a sewing machine. You always left with that edge stitch foot, and you always left with an open-toed applique foot. I mean, because there were so many things you could do with it.
Well, and
so that is another podcast.
I will just, yes, it is. It's the next one.
So we should call it Gestapo
I don't know if like the stop is so like you like mandated people must
I
buy.
did.
I guess that okay.
I did.
All right.
I did. I was like the foot Nazi.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Except more feet for you, not no feet for you.
We didn't experiment on them or anything. Yeah.
So, the other foot that I like for people to leave with in baby lock land is the narrow zipper foot.
Oh, absolutely. You mean like the old-fashioned zipper
the
foot?
old-fashioned
is what I call it, the one that moves back and forth, right? And is only on one side of the needle.
Not only the one that moves back and forth, but there's one that's like just real narrow and stationary, and you move your needle. But I like the one that moves back and forth too.
Right.
So stretch lace, I guess to conclude. Let's
Well, I think we need to clarify something that you haven't said.
Okay.
You've been talking about stretch lace in a certain width that you use as
You're
trim.
totally right. Stretch lace trim. Yeah.
Right. You're talking about trim because there is stretch lace.
You got it. No, you
that
should say
is
that.
yardage.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure we haven't addressed, yardage, so to speak.
And this in the show notes we'll be linking to some photos and stuff like that. But you're totally right, stitching with it. But even addressing stretch lace yardage, I made another cardigan out of stretch lace last year, and I expected to have more trouble. It was just It was no more trouble than any other knit, and actually a little easier than some knits.
Right.
Be not afraid.
I think there can be, all rules aren't always 100% true, but if you see something in retail, and there's a lot of stretch lace tops and stretch lace insertion on knit tops and things like that, if you can see a lot of that in retail, and it's at a very reasonable price, it's probably not real hard to do.
That's a good point.
Okay? You can probably do it. No, actually, it's true. Now, if you walk in someplace, and you're looking at an Armani suit and it's built a certain way and it costs a couple $1,000s, it might not be as easy to go home and whip up.
Okay, so, we talk about, learning to sew with the new fabrics. Well, those new fabrics were probably created for people to manufacture garments faster, So, yeah, you're right. I never had thought about it like that.
Right.
That's a good point. That's it.
So if you're seeing gobs of it in retail, it's probably not that difficult to do. There might be a little trick you haven't learned yet or a little hint that you might need, and it might feel scary, but I'll bet you it's not that hard.
Well, and, we'll always say, if you can, get yourself a serger,
Well, that's true. I mean, there are stitches that you are going to see on the ready-made market that no home sewing machine will do, okay?
Right.
There are certain stitches. And that's okay because, that one machine that made that stitch only does that stitch and it costs tens of thousands of dollars.
Right.
But they also made tens of thousands of garments using that. But there's almost always a way to mock it or, do something similar and you can come up with that result or maybe even a better one.
Yeah. All right. Well, obviously we've got a couple more podcast ideas. So we'll end this one and go record those.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Sewing Out Loud. For even more expert sewing advice, visit sewhere.com.